In a world where danger lurks around every corner and loyalty is as fleeting as the wind, the hero, Lin, navigates the chaotic mess of goblin tribes and magical mayhem. He has a plan, but sometimes things don't go as smoothly as hoped, especially when dealing with a bunch of useless thugs and a gold digger or two. But don't worry, he's got a way with words and maybe a few tricks up his sleeve. Let's dive in and see how he handles this wild ride. Lin watches his target closely. At first glance, the guy doesn't seem too tough, more like a lightweight. With a combat score of just 300, Jacob Chad thinks even a dozen goblin muscle heads could take him down. But there's one problem. Capturing this guy alive is trickier than it looks. He's too big for the poison to work. It's like trying to put a bear to sleep with just a sleeping pill. Realizing that the paralytic poison is a total flop, Jacob Chad sighs. It's like trying to charm a dragon with a lullaby, just not going to happen. If only he could use that imprisonment spell Ephraia had cast on him once. That would do the trick. With a new plan forming in his mind, he sets out to find Ephraia. Meanwhile, in the goblin tribe's camp, nestled deep in the forest, the thugs report back with their catch. They got the human, but things aren't looking good. Poor guy is on the brink of death. The goblin boss shrugs and expresses approval for their efforts. Meanwhile, the prisoner is all chained up, pleading for mercy and babbling about accepting punishment for his sins. Finally, Lin meets up with Ephraia and feels an unexpected warmth in her presence. But Ephraia isn't exactly thrilled. She behaves like a spitfire. She struggles against her pain, calling him a demon and complaining about how it drives her mad. Ever calm, he delivers some punishment before calling it quits. She looks surprised and asks if he is serious. He nods, letting her know it's her choice now. Believe in God or become his loyal pet. Tough choice, but that's just how life goes sometimes. With a serious look, he gives Ephraia a new title, Little Brat, to remind her of her place. Surprisingly, she takes it well and nods in acceptance. As the scene shifts, he scoops her up and leads her to an old stone well, like something out of a fairy tale. He gently eases her into the water, leaving her clothes behind as she slips into the warm embrace of the well's calming waters. Ephraia feels grateful and thinks to herself about how well he treats her and how she would give him everything. Lin watches her with a smirk and asks curiously what is perfect for her. He genuinely wants to know what she thinks. His curiosity leads him to ask her to show off her holy-like cage skill. But Ephraia looks puzzled and responds that she doesn't know what that is. With an ancient spellbook nearby, she tries to summon something up while muttering its name like it's an old nursery rhyme. Suddenly, the air begins to shimmer as Ephraia focuses hard on her magic. A radiant glow emerges from the book. It seems almost alive. Then out of nowhere, the holy-like cage bursts into existence. A massive glowing cage that lights up the forest around them. Jacob Chad nods approvingly and praises Ephraia for her accomplishment. They step back to admire the huge structure together. But then things take an unexpected turn. Jacob Chad finds himself locked inside the cage. He calls out to Ephraia, asking if she is good and urging her to hurry up and take care of that goblin so she can get him out of there because his body needs some serious magic. As they stare each other down, he marvels at how Ephraia, the city lord's daughter, could willingly follow his orders without complaint. She smiles and affirms that nothing makes her happier than obeying him. Her loyalty is sealed tight. With a smirk on his face, Lin lays down the law for the goblin tribe. They have two choices: submit or face defeat. He knows this is just the beginning of their adventure together, and he won't let any gold-digging thugs or lousy goblins stand in his way. Lin's shock was palpable as he realized Evelia's true identity. His eyes widened in disbelief, and for a moment, he couldn't comprehend the revelation. It was utterly unexpected. Gathering himself quickly, he turned and thanked the informant who had provided this critical piece of information. promising them a worthy reward. Evelia, however, wasted no time, stepping into a position of authority as she instructed a nearby goblin to ensure that the people below didn't grow lazy. She commanded with a sense of control, radiating confidence. Meanwhile, Lin's expression hardened, signaling that it was time to press forward with their plans. With determination in his voice, he suggested they move out and confront the Bloodfang tribe, fully prepared to engage in what could be a dangerous encounter. The scene transitioned to the Bloodfang tribe's territory, set against a dark, foreboding backdrop that hinted at the significance of this location. Here the goblin leader stood before his troops, reporting to his chief that all preparations were complete. His excitement grew as he rallied his forces, enthusiastically declaring their intention to destroy the southern tribe and capture all the elves for their pleasure. His imposing figure, armed and surrounded by cheering goblins, exuded a mix of confidence and dominance, further motivating his troops to follow him into battle. Amid this excitement, the orc leader, with his fierce expression and glowing eyes, was alerted by a panicked goblin about an infiltration. Another goblin had apparently slipped into the tribe, looking specifically for the leader himself. The orc's initial reaction was one of surprise, but it quickly turned into dismissal as he arrogantly questioned why a low-level goblin would dare approach him. Enter Lin, addressing Chief Bloodfang directly. He acknowledged the chief's intelligence and status as a heroic goblin, worthy of comparison to humans. Lin made it clear that he wasn't there for a simple fight. He wanted a conversation. But the goblin chief, suspicious, asked if Lin was a mutant, eyeing him warily. With a smirk, Lin dismissed the suggestion, boasting that he was simply smarter than the average goblin. Confidently, he revealed his identity as the leader of the Qianquang tribe and issued a bold ultimatum. The goblins could submit to him or face the consequences. Lin's posture was fierce and commanding, as he pointed directly at the goblins, giving them a stark choice: submit or die. The goblins, filled with suspicion and anger, questioned whether the figure before them was truly the leader of the tribe holding the elves captive. Lin, not missing a beat, complimented the towering orc, remarking that he had good genes, before commanding him to follow. The orc, seething with frustration, shouted insults, calling someone an idiot, and then, in a sudden, aggressive move, grabbed Lin by the head. The orc leader taunted Lin, expressing disbelief that Lin would dare come directly to him. With a twisted sense of overconfidence, he arrogantly declared his intention to kill everyone and take all the elves and humans for himself. His ruthless ambition and dominance excited the surrounding goblins, who eagerly cheered for their boss, urging him to lead the cloaked figure to his doom. Their bloodlust grew as they chanted for the orc to beat Lin to death. Lin, though, remained eerily calm, even disdainful. He realized that words would do nothing here, and with fury burning in his eyes, he unleashed a powerful downward strike aimed directly at the orc leader. The orc's smug demeanor turned to shock as he frantically reacted, unprepared for the sheer speed and force of Lin's attack. In the chaos that followed, a goblin, panicked and desperate, ran towards the foreground, shouting frantically, likely warning others or fleeing from the imminent danger. The orc leader, now visibly injured and furious, screamed in frustration and pain, commanding his underlings to kill Lin. His desperation was clear as the battle quickly turned against him. One particularly enraged goblin rallied his companions, urging them to attack and avenge their boss, showing their fierce loyalty even in the face of overwhelming odds. As the goblins prepared to strike back, Lin calmly snapped his fingers and summoned something powerful. In an instant, a goblin disintegrated, vanquished by Lin's mysterious ability. The goblins watching were startled, their senses tingling as they realized something unnatural was afoot. In that moment, one goblin felt an eerie silence around him, only to be confronted by stealthy figures emerging from the shadows. Using the silent step skill, these figures moved with deadly precision, catching the goblins by surprise and eliminating them before they had a chance to react. Lin then gave the cold, calculated command to kill all members of the Bloodfang tribe. His forces, led by a figure using the silent step skill, began the brutal attack. Goblin warriors suddenly appeared, ready for combat, and the orc leader stood defiantly at the center, rallying his troops for a final stand. But as reinforcements arrived, the goblins realized too late that they had walked right into Lin's trap. Lin stood confidently among the fallen, his strategic advantage clearly displayed. Amid the carnage, Lin strategized, aware that his opponent was using negotiation tactics to buy time. Deciding the best course of action was to retreat, Lin confidently planned his escape, knowing that his superior skills would allow him to avoid further confrontation. However, the orc leader, filled with rage, vowed to kill Lin before he could flee. But Lin, slyly smirking, called out to Ri, summoning her to action. She activated the holy light cage, a glowing intricate spell designed to trap her opponent. The orc leader, now completely ensnared, was left in shock, unable to escape. As he struggled in vain, Lin watched with a sinister smile, clearly pleased with the trap's success. The orc, bound within the glowing cage, seethed in frustration. His anger was palpable, but there was nothing he could do. His fury only grew as Lin mockingly addressed Evelia, praising her strength after embracing evil. Evelia, visibly blushing and overwhelmed, joyfully referred to Lin as master, repeatedly thanking him. Meanwhile, the orc, now fully defeated, cursed at Lin with all the venom he could muster, his defeat humiliating and absolute. Lin's victory was short-lived, as the scene shifted to a peaceful camp set up near a river, surrounded by cliffs. There, Lin reflected on his latest conquest, cleaning a blood-stained dagger. His satisfaction was evident. Another dangerous creature had been subdued. However, his thoughts were interrupted by the shock of another man who questioned how Lin had managed such a feat. Later, Lin delegated tasks to his companions, ensuring that every mission was handled properly. But the situation quickly turned awkward when one of the women, startled by an unexpected gesture, caused a brief moment of flustered confusion. The female elf, however, quickly regained her composure, informing Lin that he needed to meet a friend, which piqued her curiosity. The scene shifted once again, this time to a remote coastal area where Lin stood over the carcass of a beast. His mind was focused on Dragon Island, and he formulated a plan to lure a dragon there. As the scent of blood filled the air, a massive dragon suddenly swooped down from the sky, drawn by the heady stench. Lin, hiding beneath the beast's carcass, watched as the dragon grabbed the bait, unknowingly carrying him along with it. As the dragon flew over vast mountains, Lin silently celebrated the success of his daring plan. The dragon, unaware of Lin's presence, began its descent into a rocky lair. Once it dropped the carcass into a pit filled with the remains of its prey, Lin crawled out, ready to initiate the next phase of his mission. However, his presence was quickly detected. A massive eye watched him from the shadows, signaling the arrival of a powerful dragoness. Recognizing Lin as the leader of the group that attacked the town, the dragoness threatened him, her voice dripping with menace. Lin raised a hand, stopping her advance, and claimed he had come to negotiate an alliance. Amused by Lin's audacity, the dragoness transformed into a humanoid form, intrigued by what he had to offer. She demanded to hear his plan for revenge against the Sword Saint, and Lin confidently laid out his strategy. The dragoness, still skeptical, questioned what Lin could possibly bring to the table. But Lin, always the strategist, explained that brute force wouldn't work against someone like the Sword Saint. Instead, they needed to target her heart, break her spirit, and crush her will to fight. Delighted by the cunning plan, the dragoness agreed to the alliance, impressed by Lin's boldness. She gently stroked his face, acknowledging the intellect hidden within the goblin ranks, and teasingly suggested he deserved a reward for his cleverness. Lin, with a smug smile, makes a confident remark about the dragon's behavior during a significant event. A woman with demonic features responds in a dismissive tone, implying that Lin is far too insignificant to even pique her interest. The demonist, standing proudly beside the massive creature, offers Lin a reward. As she casually considers which one to grant, a sly, teasing smile plays on her lips, hinting that something devious is brewing beneath her charming demeanor. Suddenly, the peaceful village scene takes a brutal turn. A man, crucified and surrounded by armored creatures, appears exhausted and wounded. In his desperation, he wonders why the knights haven't come to rescue him. Despite the hopelessness of his situation, he devises a plan to escape the goblin-infested forest by reaching higher ground, where the creatures are less dense. His thoughts are interrupted by a shocking sight: a dragon flying overhead. Panic-stricken, the man frantically struggles against his restraints, pleading with the goblins to release him before the dragon's fire consumes him. The goblin warriors sense the looming threat and immediately form a defensive line, preparing for battle with the beast. The villagers watch in disbelief as the dragon swoops down, questioning why such a powerful creature has appeared in their midst. One villager notices something strange about the dragon, pointing out a figure riding on its back. As the dragon prepares to engage with the goblins below, the figure confidently steps forward, announcing his return. The goblins tremble in fear as they realize their leader has come back. Lin gently pats the dragon's head, reassuring the creature to stay calm. Obediently, the dragon listens. The goblins erupt into wild cheers, praising their leader's triumphant return. Even the captive man, still bound, looks on in disbelief, realizing the deep loyalty and admiration these creatures have for their master. Trembling, he wonders whether the creature before him is truly just a goblin, and desperately cries out for the knights to rescue him before it's too late. The scene shifts to a bustling plaza in a well-structured town. A massive armored figure stomps through the square, shaking the ground with every step. An army of knights stands ready in formation. At the head, a knight grips the reins of his powerful steed, preparing to lead the charge. The Royal Knight Order, adorned in their majestic armor, stands poised for battle. A group of knights bows in deep reverence before a commanding woman known as the Sword Saint. She exudes authority, urging the kneeling knights to rise quickly, as time is of the essence. She orders them to proceed swiftly with the rescue mission, emphasizing the urgency of the task. The screen then displays a system interface, outlining a simulation scenario where the player is tasked with raising a third generation of goblins. Through various actions like raiding towns and leveling up in the Enchanted Forest, the player achieves significant progress. New choices appear, each with different consequences affecting the overall score and mission success. Lin, standing within the digital interface, is surprised by a new option that has appeared. The third choice offers a strategic advantage. For a specific period, there will be no threat from the Sword Saint. Confidently, he selects this option to accelerate their leveling progress, skipping ahead to a month later. His score increases by 20 points, pushing him further ahead in the simulation. After the time jump, Lin stares ahead in shock, trying to process the drastic changes that have occurred. He lies on a bed, reflecting on the strange sensation of having skipped time and the peculiar feeling it left behind. Despite his new level and increased stats, he feels his overall power hasn't improved as much as he expected, wondering if there's a hidden reason behind it. A frantic subordinate bursts into the room, delivering alarming news. Many of the newly born goblins are stillborn. Shocked, Lin rushes to the scene where goblin mothers mourn over their lifeless offspring. The silence is heavy with grief, as the entire community is struck by the immense loss. The captive man, watching from above, mocks Lin for trying to raise a strong goblin generation with such weak offspring. Lin, maintaining his composure, gazes up at the captive, suspecting he might know something about the tragedy. The man laughs wickedly, revealing that higher-tier goblins struggle to produce viable offspring. He ridicules Lin for believing that reproductive power alone could ensure dominance. Lin sarcastically thanks the captive for the late revelation, but hints that this information, while useful, won't derail his plans. He orders his subordinate, Gabu Mad, to take charge of the captive, warning him not to kill the man just yet. Gabu Mad evilly accepts the task with a grin, while the captive furiously vows revenge, declaring that he will never forgive Lin. Contemplating the gravity of the situation, Lin understands that raising a new generation of hero goblins is no longer possible. His only hope now lies in gathering enough hero goblins to stand a chance against the Sword Saint. As he contemplates his next move, a familiar dark dragon with glowing red eyes emerges from the shadows, drawing Lin's attention. The dragon undergoes a striking transformation, taking on a humanoid appearance with delicate features. Startled but composed, Lin reaches out to touch the dragon's face, wondering about this unusual turn of events. The transformed dragon, now a strikingly beautiful woman, pounces on Lin with a playful expression, leaving him flustered and off balance. A system notification appears, congratulating Lin on unlocking a new achievement and granting him significant boosts in health, strength, and defense.